but you get to learn more. So young people have realized that. So if your platform, if your paper gives them access to knowledge that they could not otherwise get, then again there is a sustained association. You will notice that in every one or two slides I have used the word sustained association. It's not because I'm short of words, but it is because sustained association is something that you need with young people. What's happening is that because the plethora of choices that we have today, if a brand does not stand out to me, I am not going to consume you. I don't wake up thinking about brands. I don't even wake up thinking about Apple. Why is Apple standing out? Because it realized the shift in mindset. I saw a TED video where it was mentioned that the best thing Apple did is it thought 10 steps in the future. There was a time when people looked at price, but Steve Jobs saw that people also look at quality and design in a computer more than just technology. So what did he do? He created technology, he created design, and he created a good package. And he priced it higher than any other competitor, and people still go and buy it. Because he saw 10 steps ahead, and that is what, as a newspaper, I think you should do. I will not name, but I have, in fact, I just got a chance to sneak into the kind of attendees are here. I promise you, the 3 of the biggest papers, I have gone and met your editors-in-chiefs, and I have gone and met your CMOs with a business pitch. And all I get to see is, why do we need to specially engage youth? People are reading, newspapers are being bought. But what you need to see is, a guy who's 18 today will be 28, 10 years down, and then 38, 20 years down. So if you don't build an association now, with the amount of newspapers that the market is being flooded with, the amount of digital media, news mediums that the web world is being flooded with, you will get lost in the race. It doesn't matter if you're number 1 or number 2 or number 3 now. It's about what you will be 5 years from now. That is where you need to make a mindset shift as brand managers. So urban youth. Today's youth is defined by choice. There is media democracy. Internet has actually, mind my language, but screwed things up for you. If you see, there was a time when it was just the newspaper and the television. And because the newspaper was always known to be more credible and it was more dependable, and it was always there with you whenever you needed it, you guys use the newspaper. But today, I don't need to use the newspaper. On my flight to Delhi today, I unfortunately was sleeping. I couldn't get to read the newspaper. I just logged on to the net when I came to the hotel and got to know what happened yesterday. So I don't need to read the paper. You need me to read you. Otherwise, I'll get my information from wherever I want. So, and therefore, what you need to do is you need to see how you can integrate this new mediums into your medium. Now, when I say integrate new mediums into your medium, I don't mean start an e-paper. An e-paper is not the solution to becoming digital, to engage youth. No. I will tell you how in the coming slides. Let's just understand the typical schedule of a student in Mumbai, but I think this is applicable in most metros. You leave home at 7:30 a.m. for college. You take a train. So that's usually most students travel by public transport, or even if they have their own car, they have time. So that is a place where the newspaper can fit in. There's a first break, there's a lunch break, they are in college, they again come back home, they watch TV, then they're on the net finally at night. Also, the only thing now is that you have net all the time with BlackBerry happening. And just off the topic, I just read, we did a survey that there are more women using BlackBerries in campuses than men, because because whole BB pin funda. So, but the space that you can catch young people is when they're leaving home. What's happening is that just like a single television home, there's also a single newspaper home. If you look at an average household, there's only one paper that comes, which is first taken by the father, then by the mother, and then by the son or daughter. But your opportunity is where they can subscribe for their own paper, where they can call for their separate paper. That is not happening right now, and that is where the opportunity lies. I don't know many young people who subscribe the paper independently by their own choice of brand. But if you, as I explain further, if you can capture that space, that is where opportunity lies for brands like newspaper brands, and that will last for a long time. Your competition, as I said, you have the PSP, you have the TV, you have the iPhone, you have the iPod, and you have offline networks. But if your paper can become a convergence of all these mediums, that is a solution. Now, let's understand, I'll tell you what young people think about different mediums. For newspaper, there's high credibility, but they find it difficult to browse, which is a challenge for you. The blog, medium credibility, very easy to browse. Therefore, there are many blog followers. TV, low credibility, but very easy to browse. And now with mobile TV, TV is accessible everywhere. So, but yet again, young people still want to consume the paper, but it's just that they are not going to take the first step. You have to take the first step and you have to go to them. The pros for a newspaper, the pros now, you know, for young people, being informed is cool. As I said, newspapers are still the most credible source of information, and they're easily available at most houses. So the distribution for newspapers is fairly, you know, it's well connected. However, what goes against you is a newspaper. It takes time to read. There is no interactivity, and there is low involvement for most Indian youth. So, you know, I hate that statement when papers say you're off the youth and by the youth, because what off the youth and by the youth means is what the editor does typically is he argues that I have young people working in my office, so I have representation from the youth, but that is not youth. Your young journalists, unfortunately, are not Indian youth. What happens is that when you become a journalist, you are thinking from a particular perspective. But when you're thinking as a citizen, with a different perspective, and young people nowadays want to read themselves, people like them, people of their mindset wavelength, they're not a journalist. So how does one convince young people, urban youngsters, to first read the paper? That is the first challenge together. Habit formation. Newspaper is a habit. Now, how do you do that? You cannot do a billboard campaign and say newspapers reading is a must. You cannot put Katrina Kaif on your billboard and say, "Main padhti hu, tum bhi padho." Doesn't work. I mean, I know a lot of brands who think celebrity endorsements are the easiest way to engage youths. I don't think so. What has to happen is you need to look at all those touch points, such as colleges, youth leadership seminars, entrepreneurship groups, youth organizations that work in different causes, work for different causes, and see how you can associate with them. There is an organization, for example, called ISEC, which is present in India and present all across the world. It has a network of more than a couple of thousands of students in India in itself. Imagine if you do a outreach deal with ISEC and you create forums. So, for example, if there is a Hindustan Times Leadership Summit for the big wigs, why is there no HT Leadership Summit for the youth? And your ticket inside is to read the paper first. And these kind of projects have happened in the States, have happened where to have an access into good events, you need to first read the paper because you need to be informed. So, habit. The key solution to your problem of first getting the youth to read the paper is habit formation. Use high involvement mediums such as Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. Now, when I say Facebook, I don't mean put an ad on Facebook. I don't mean start a group on Facebook. No, that is also not the solution to your problem. What is the solution is how Facebook can be integrated to generate content for your paper, where people can use Facebook to tell them what they want on your paper. Because then automatically they will then engage with your presence online because they know that it's going to translate into something offline on your paper. India has the 4th largest internet participation in the world, but to our dismay, it is being only used for ads and groups and those kind of things. But the challenge, the real success of social media for a newspaper brand is to create your own property online, such that it has a good offline connect. If you create an online forum where young people can get to create their own content, like a dig model, like you guys should study something called the dig model, where you can read about it on Google, where the content, what happens is that before the content comes out, young people get to choose what they want to read. And they get to choose, and different people get to choose different things. So if I want to read about sports, I can, and what about sports, I can pre-decide. So the next day when the content comes to me, I can choose what is going to come to me. And as I said, young people are driven by choice today. Now, blogging. I'm just giving an idea. I have 30 minutes. I can't lay down an entire marketing plan for you also because it's my business. So I will give you my number and I can come to you and do it for you. But I'm just displaying to you what you could do. We know that blogging is a slowly but steadily growing exercise on the internet. Who are bloggers? They are people who write and people who have an opinion and who would therefore be followed if their opinion has enough followers. Develop a platform where selected bloggers can register their blogs, which is then followed by your team of young journalists, who again I repeat are not youth. As a brand, they are not your youth. I think that's a fundamental mistake that most newspaper brands make when they look at youth, what they can see in their office. There is youth beyond what your office. There is youth beyond. There are young people who do things differently from what your sons and daughters do. They are not the youth that you should see. Pick blogs from these and publish them in a weekly segment. Why cannot there be a beat for young people in your papers? I don't see a single beat dedicated to youth. Education beats are actually read more by parents than students, and that's a fact. Namely, Education Times or an HT Horizon, I know for a fact is read more by parents than young people, and young people only read it when it comes to exam times or some information that they want to consume, that they know that they want to consume, but they will not readily and voluntarily pick it up. So anyways, you pick these blogs and you filter them, by all means filter them, but start publishing them in your weekly supplement. Like why can't there be an editorial dedicated by the youth for the youth democratically? Now incorporate these bloggers into your column. Why only a Shobha Day? Why only a Pritish Nandi? Sorry, they are Buddhas and Buddhis for me. I am not going to read it. Let my mother and father read it. I am not saying that it shouldn't come. But there should also be some content for me. There is absolutely no content that I can own. And there is a scope for developing new celebrities. Who knew Shobha Day 20 years ago? But today, because of her and because of Bombay Times, it's complementing each other. You need to give birth to new thought leaders. That is what a newspaper is for. If you trace back the origin of a newspaper, why it was formed and what it has become today, there's a stark difference. But if you go back to the roots of the purpose of a newspaper, that is going to be your solution to engage youth because of the mindset that young people have developed today. So anyways, you create these bloggers, thought leaders in your paper. Why will it work? Look, fact of the matter is young people like to speak and young people like to hear other young people. And as I said, a blog stems from the fact of need to be heard. And a newspaper, young people want to be heard. I repeat that again. It also, what happens is you're creating a platform to give birth to new thought leaders, as I said. So you're developing a new generation. So therefore your fan following will be it'll be a futuristic idea, because if I'm 17 and I read somebody who's 19 and I felt, wow, I like his writing, I wish I could write like him, I will have a sustained readership of that guy in your paper. So I will look forward to that column. Now, briefly looking at your rural Indian youth, I didn't want to ignore that. Otherwise, when I go back to Maharashtra, Bal Thackeray will be after me that you're ignoring grassroots. Yeah, that's a fact, because what's happening is that when we say youth, either one side you look at only the linguistic vernacular youth, or you look at the urban youth. And if you choose one or the other, you have political parties after you. So, you always need to consider both, and even as a newspaper. The reason I mention this, apart from, lightening up after a heavy lunch, is that your paper, even if it might be English, but there are still grassroots level young people who read English, or urban youth who read vernacular mediums. Why? Because, as I said, rebirth of Indian values, a lot of young people are spending more and more time with their grandparents who, if they are from a rural background but now living in urban towns, read a Dainik Jagran or whatever, or Divya Bhaskar or whatever the papers are, and if young people know that language, they do read it. So you need to look at both kinds of youth. Now, what's happening is that the rural youth are the more charged up. Again, it's an unfortunate thing. I also take up a lot of social activities on the side in enabling young people for social change, and I've seen that the more charged up youth is those found in villages or the less deprived areas, because they are the ones who are suffering and they want to come out of it. So if your paper or the vernacular version of your paper was a platform for them to give them that out-of-home exposure, that is an opportunity. Why do you think something like a Balika Vadhu or is a success in urban areas? Why? Because an urban lady or a young girl has never seen a person of her age getting oppressed, so she wants to watch. Conversely, those serials where there are high funda women fighting in heavy dresses with each other, a person in a village has never seen that. So it's giving them exposure, which is why channels like a Sony or a Z is having sustained consumption of that kind of content from rural areas. So same thing for your paper. What if like page 3 now is going to become an aspiration for the village women or the village men? Kya item lagti hai? That is what people say, and that is and that's the fact. Midday mate. Do you know what a midday mate is? Anybody know what a midday mate over here is? Midday has done a very smart thing. They print this sexy looking photo of a girl every day, and trust me, bus drivers, conductors, car drivers, everybody specially buy midday just to see that, and therefore they read the other content also, and that's the reality. So if you know that, and I'm not just saying that village boys want to look at hot women or women want to look at hot guys, but and saying that they want that exposure that they don't get. So if your paper became a platform for that, there is a sustained engagement.